Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are watching this. It is my pleasure to welcome Sharon Carne to Authentic Conversations, presented by Transition Clarity. I am your host, Adele Bernard, and welcome. So I'll just give you a little bit background on Sharon, and her love of music was sparked by with the songs of her grandmother and mother. As she grew, this love was fed by singing in choirs and music lessons on classical guitar, leading to earnings a bachelor in music degree from Queen's University and a master's of fine arts degree from the University of Minnesota. I will put the rest of it in the show notes because it's a wonderful journey, but I'd rather get to the conversation of this wonderful journey to help our audience understand why she's the sound healer she is and how she got here on this journey. So, once again, welcome to the show.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Adele. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. And yes, it has been quite a journey. And it with a few course corrections along the way, as usual with any journey.
Yeah. Well, we all have those, but that's okay because like we call them course corrections, or I nickname, oh, there's my hiccup again. It's all for us, not against us.
Totally,
Like
I so agree. Yeah,
we might think those valleys are like, why am I in the valley? I'd rather be in the peak. But those valleys are what gives us the strength to keep going for the peak.
do they ever? Mm.
And so how did you go from like guitar and helping people like voice, guitar, whatever, to the bowls?
Well, I think oh gosh, there's so many starts, Adele. One of them I found out in my 30s, I think my 30s. My mom told me I almost died when I was a baby. And a
Mm,
near death experience was that experience. And it's probably taking, in present tense, a lifetime to integrate that experience and connection with Source. I was 10 months old and I had whooping cough and I stopped breathing. And so mom didn't know what to do. And so she just said, she grabbed me by my feet and shook, and it dislodged whatever it was in here. And I started breathing again. Where I went was the void, I later discovered. And so that experience kind of set my feet on a spiritual path. Many years, those times when I took other paths when the children were young, kind of forgot about it, except when a friend or somebody I didn't even know gave me a book and said, "You're supposed to read this."
yeah,
So I,
I've done that to people.
yes, and it's those little tweaks in the path that have kept me reading esoteric literature all my life. I learned yoga from a book in my 20s, and things like that have always been part of some of the books I read were more like a review. I already know that. I don't know how I know that, but I already know that, and kind of help that spiritual journey grow. And the journey with music was an interesting one, because that was a whole other story of sparking a passion that had I grew up with. My mom always sang songs, and then I kept singing throughout school, and eventually went to university in music. And after several years of teaching and then getting into sound healing, they were like two parallel paths. It didn't intersect very much,
Mm,
and my
yeah.
spiritual life and journey and what I was reading and my teaching were separate. And I had, oh gosh, probably 30 years ago or so, I had a group of adult students who were really nervous about performing. So I thought, okay, I'll order every book on stage fright that I can find. And so we chose some experiences in there and exercises to practice. So I booked art galleries, I booked coffee shops, and we gather once a month or something like that to just play whatever we were working on. And there would be, it was public, so there was always a small audience and it was fairly safe. So we practiced those exercises in the presence of other people. And one of them was to imagine a color while you're performing, one of the most successful exercises we tried. Because what that does is it distracts the critical mind, the ego mind,
Yeah.
from, oh God, here comes the hard part. Oh, you got through there. Don't screw this up. That conversation is often going on and distracts you from playing the music, especially with an adult who's learning a new skill.
Hmm.
And so the color helped quiet that down and allow the music to flow. And every single time we did it, at least one person in the audience would come back after and say, there was a color when you played this piece. And even in one of the concerts I did during this time we were exploring, I chose one piece from my concert to imagine the color. And this lady came back to me after the concert. She pointed to that piece on the program and she said, Sharon, this was so beautiful. It reminded me of sitting by the ocean. The color was so blue.
Oh, how
And I thought,
wonderful.
okay, this is too many coincidences. This is no longer coincidence. Okay, universe, I'm listening. What is it about sound that is a carrier wave? What does it carry and how does it do that? And how does it reach those people who are coming back to me saying they got a color in this piece? In whatever way it happened in their imagination, there was always a color. And so I bought books. I went to the library. I eventually ended up studying with Jonathan Goldman and Tom Kenyon in the United States. And that first day with Jonathan Goldman, it was like, okay, I got it. I got it. This is the path. Course correction. That's why I spent a lifetime in music, because this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is soul work. But it took a lifetime almost of preparation to get there.
Yeah.
So fascinating. I love
Well,
the tweaks you get along the way.
well, and to add to that about the song giving people a color, I actually was listening to actors who were petrified to speak as kids. And you wouldn't know that as actors today, but they studied the word that they were reading, that they didn't have to think about how to speak it. So their stutters went away. And I was like, fascinating,
Ah,
right? As I'm
yeah,
now
that
at it,
is.
I'm like, I love reading, but I can't speak the words as I read. Like I stutter. Yeah, whatever. But and it's funny because as you're taking that small group to say the coffee shop, that public place, and you think about the two fears that people have in life, death and speaking in public, and you're going, well, let's do it together. You're not going to
Yeah.
die. It's a safe place, right? If you fall down, it's okay. We're there to support you, pick you back up. And I think if anything, music is that ever ebb and flow through everyone's life. Like
Hmm.
you might not have heard a song for a long time, and all of a sudden the song comes on the radio or it pops into your head, and you go, and you instantly get transported back to that beautiful memory, or you start laughing, and everyone around you's like, "What?" And it's where it's sung in the head, right? And it's also the universal language of you don't need to know what words are. Everyone,
Exactly.
no matter what language you speak, everyone knows the beat. If it's a 4 count, a 6 count, or whatever, right? Like everyone knows that, oh, here comes the heavier drums because we're going into, right? And that's why I think it's so wonderful. And then you add in your beautiful bowls and crystal bowls, the Tibetan bowls. Can you share a little bit about the difference, like the crystal bowls to the Tibetan bowls? Like, my little experiment is the crystals are a newer way, right? If you're
Hmm.
just getting
Hmm.
into the bowls, like maybe start with the crystals. But if you want to go into the deep dive and really understand what's going on within you, you head over to the Tibetan bowls because they have the ancient wisdom. What else could you share?
Oh my goodness. That's just a start.
I know. That's why I said
And
my little.
I'm loving everything you're saying about music being the universal language because very much it is. And in some of my, I did so much reading, Adele, and one of a fascinating book, and man whose work is profound in helping us understand how music affects the brain and the heart is that one of the things he says in his book, "This is your brain on music." And it's a scientific exploration of what happens in the brain with music. Music activates everything, everything in the brain, absolutely everything. And one of the reasons, also, he mentions in the book, is that music is the universal language because it was humanity's first language. And
Mm,
this is corroborated by many linguists who study the evolution of language. And that many of them agree that we had music as a language before we could speak to each other with words as a human family.
I could see that.
And so, yes, and another thing music does and did to our ancestors is it brought people together when in those experiments that are measuring the effect of the brain and the nervous system of music, one of the things that's found in the release of hormones from the nervous system, I call music and sound food for your nervous system. We have food for our bodies. Well, sound and music is food for your nervous system.
Wow.
And the one of the things that helps us gather into communities and probably was our very first community builder is sound and music because oxytocin is released whenever we play music together, sing music together,
Hmm.
gather together with sound. There's a hormone, which is the bonding hormone, oxytocin.
Hmm.
And even remember, if you've ever been to a football game or a hockey
Hmm.
game or a baseball game and everybody's chanting, we will rock you, and
Yep.
clap, clap, stomp, stomp, and it brings together everybody. That's
Yep.
oxytocin in doing its thing, and it's how we're built. We're built to respond to music in so many ways and sound. And one of the most oh, I get too excited. One of the most precious, one of the most precious tools we have always had, is our own voice.
Hmm.
And many of the things we teach, we do a lot with sound tools, of course, and understanding what makes music work to help us feel better and be more healthy. Your voice is one of your most powerful tools. Oh my goodness, there's a whole other conversation.
Well, and it's interesting because, like, I'm just gonna segue a little bit because there's a girl. I think she's on The Voice. Whatever. I saw the reel. Her speaking voice is so high pitched that you're like, whoa, drop into your body, right? But when she does her singing, it is so gut risen. And I'm like, how interesting that your
Huh?
speaking voice is like, you don't really want to be in this body. You don't really want to be here. But what's coming through your soul is that lifetime of, I know this. This is me. It's like deep and rich. And you're just like, wow, right? And it's
Wow.
fascinating.
Uh-huh. Profound, Adele, profound. When we
Yeah.
connect in with that passion, that voice of the
Hmm.
heart and the soul, then it shifts. And another thing is that one of the things that I realized many years ago when I was studying all this is that holy cow, with every sound that my voice makes, sound goes through you. And with
Hmm.
every sound that our voices make, it resonates and moves every atom of our body before the person we're speaking with even receives the sound in their eardrums. Sound goes fast. And I call it a sonic massage, an inner sonic
Okay.
massage that your voice gives you because every sound you make moves every atom in your body.
Well, and I think,
And the
but so I want to just go a little bit segue on that because that's also with the brain. Like you might not be voicing those words that your brain's muttering or the tapes that you want to close
I see.
down. It's still vibrating through. You don't have to use your voice. It's the silent voice. It still goes through though. Would you agree?
Oh, totally. Yes. Yes. It took me a minute to catch on to what
Oh,
you
I
were
know.
saying, that the thoughts have frequencies too.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's why our thoughts have to be
vocalize.
so
Ah,
like
oh yeah.
even though we're not vocalizing them, they have to be the purest thoughts of intention,
Oh my
or we're
gosh,
going to
yeah.
have more hiccups.
I
So
love
if
your
you're
word
having
hiccups.
hiccups, if you're having hiccups, figure out what play tapes are playing and you go delete. Thanks for sharing. Let's get some better
Totally.
music playing, right?
Mm, yeah. Yeah. Sound also is very physical energy, and sometimes people are really surprised when I share that sound goes through you. In fact, sound goes through you faster than it goes through the air, which is why the voice is so important and the frequencies of the voice. Because in order for sound just to move, it has to push against atoms and molecules. Thought frequencies work at, now, this is Sharon's ideas
Yeah,
and
all good.
thoughts about your comment, which is so important. To me, thought frequencies are a different frequency band, it's a different radio
Mm-hmm.
station. And
Mm-hmm.
so it affects the cells by affecting the nervous system because our thoughts are intimately connected with the emotional part of the brain, which trigger, well, all of it triggers physical response in the body. Our thoughts become physical very quickly. Okay, so where was I going with this? Maybe it doesn't matter because it's all
No,
the
but it's
same thing.
no, but it's interesting because it maybe on my train of thought of like, say your shoulder's hurting, right? And you're like, but I didn't do anything wrong with it. But what thoughts are you sending that you're unaware of that is getting caught in your shoulder and your shoulder's going, well, if you keep on sending me these thoughts, I'm not going to work anymore. And it's the same with the voice, right? If your voice is
Yes.
is talking in a low drone of, oh, it's never going to go better. And it's like, well, guess what you're getting? A body that's sick,
Hmm.
right? But if you're saying it's a beautiful day and I'm going to make the best of this day and every day I'm going to jump out of bed, like, well, get out of bed easier and easier, right? Your body is going to react to that ease and grace. And that's what I think with after meeting you, more so with the bowls, is the journey starts you off slowly and it moves you into that kind of soul movement of grace that allows the human form to kind of go, oh, this is what it's supposed to feel like in all waking times, right? We're not supposed to feel that constriction where when you're in the sound bath, you're allowed to just move more than the human body and you go in that soul response of everything's here. And then you think about the sound and you think, well, the world is 70% water. We're 70 plus percent water. And what's the sound that the world makes? Om,
Hmm.
right? Isn't that the most grounding sound vibration that we can have for our body and our world?
Yeah.
Is that Om all the way through? I can go
Oh,
on tangents.
thank
Keep
you.
me, yeah.
No, I love this, and you're right. Every especially the Tibetans are created with hammer strokes. These are ancient bowls. They could be hundreds of years old, and in the traditional way of making them, every hammer stroke on that sheet of metal to create the bowl shape was accompanied by an om or a prayer or a mantra. And so when you play these old bowls, they're filled. It's said that 1,000 prayers are sent into the environment when you tap one of these old bowls because they're filled with that energy and that om energy too. And yeah, so in that way it connects with what you're saying, and it helps people remember, oh yeah, oh yeah, now I
And
remember.
I'm gonna just throw this out here. I don't know if any of this is true. I wonder if the steel drums are the same way from the Caribbean, because that's what I is the
Ah,
steel
you
drums.
know, and one of the things Jonathan Goldman always said, Adele, is that um, as far as sound being a
Mm-hmm.
carrier wave,
Mm-hmm.
is that there's a formula he uses, which is frequency, whatever the sound is, plus your intention equals healing. And and in my experience and what he said, that my experience kind of corroborates that 70 to 80% of that formula, frequency plus intention, is intention. So
Okay.
whatever sound you're making, as you carry a clear intention, people will receive that.
Mm-hmm.
And I've spoken at musicians' conferences about this whole aspect of when you're playing, where are you? Where are you? Because wherever you are, they are getting, your audience is receiving that. Music and sound is a carrier wave like 102 FM. It
Mm-hmm.
carries, the 102 FM carries the news and the commercials and all of the music. And when you're playing music or singing music, it's the same thing. That sound or that song is carrying your emotions, your thoughts, it's carrying all of that. Your intentions is carrying all of that. And one of the things that I learned after I learned that, I went, oh crap. Okay, I needed to make decision point.
Well,
I
but
need
that
to
yeah,
go ahead.
but that brings us back to the guitar player who practices 66 hours a day and the musician who practices 6 hours a day. Because the guitar player
Yeah,
is reading the notes, doing it very mechanically. The musician is getting lost in the feeling of where he can be taken for 6 hours. Totally different playing.
exactly.
And you feel that with
Totally.
different musicians.
And you can feel that. You can feel that when you're listening. When I've been performing, Adele, what I listened for was silence. It's that, usually when you're on stage and you're playing for other people, they're shuffling around, and people are
Yeah.
playing with their program. There's coughs, there's you can hear movement in the seats. You can hear fidgeting or a little kid saying something. All of that is coming towards you while you're performing. And so it's the nervous system managing all of that. However, whenever I get to the point where that connection is made, there is absolute silence. It's like you can reach out and touch it.
And it's
Absolute
not that
silence.
you've moved into that space as the musician that like blocks it out. Like it's like the audience
Oh no.
literally just goes whoa and listens.
Yes, yes. And it's like this heart to heart connection. I For years I told my students music is the language of the heart. And it's a language of the heart and the soul. So to get people into that, out of the, okay, I made a mistake here, out of the, the ego
Yeah, but
part,
well,
music.
that's the mechanical musician
Uh-huh.
that's
And
worried
but
about that. Yeah,
there, and this is the tricky part about musical training. I went through so many decades of musical training, and at university, highly stressful musical training, because we had exams at the end of each term where we had to play in front of a group of professors, and every mistake was counted. So it's the mechanical part. It's practicing the mechanical part so that it can work while it's communicating the soul. That's the focus. But you need facility in the notes and the mechanical part, depending on what the piece is. There's a learning stage that the ego can get highly involved in. And that's a journey for every musician. It's okay, what's important here? What's
well,
important?
and it's funny because I knew him. Well, I mean, he's not gone; he's still around. um, like when he was starting out, like and he was on tour with different singers or whatever, and it'd be like the singer would just kind of step aside because he's gone. He's left the mechanical and he's taken the song in his own journey, and then when they come back, they just like great solo, unplanned, whatever, right? And but I
Yeah.
mean, but when you're watching him, like he's just like he's with you. Oh, he's starting to drift. He's and you just see him drift. But phenomenal guitarist, right? Phenomenal musician in his own right. And it's just so cute to see, right? Because it's like, oh, there he goes,
Yeah.
right? And
And
I don't know if that happens to you, like when you are doing a sound bath for people that can you lose yourself while doing it? Like I know there's timers and I know whatever, but have you just said like forget the time, let's just go where we go, let's see what bowls want to come and sing to help in this journey, and if we go over, we go over.
that's a fascinating question, Adele, because what I do with the sound bath in particular, because a sound bath for me is a service that that people can use to help release and get in touch with their soul. And so for me, my preparation is just making sure everything is set. And when before I touch any instrument, there's my intention is to become what I call empty, to connect with the group, to connect with their energy. And through my emptiness is as I connect through my higher self, and I call it empty.
Mm-hmm.
Some communities call it hollow bone. You know, there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
words for this where my mind is empty and I am receiving. So it's like I just allow my body to move. My intention is to be of service to these people, so I allow my body to move towards whatever sound would support them. Now, there is still an overall plan that usually I like to do. Sometimes that shifts because the Tibetan bowls are so supportive to the physical body, and in connecting, helping the physical body to release, and in connecting to that om, and that connecting to that body. And so I'll often start with a light sound and then go into the Tibetan bowls for clearing, and then move into the crystals. And with some instruction, depending on if there's a theme for the sound bath, I often say, okay, as you hear the Tibetan sounds, allow it to go through you, allow it to just move and shift, and it release any energy that could be stuck anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
to allow that to go beautifully and easily. Just breathe and allow it to go. Sometimes there's some instructions. If something feels sticky, just breathe into it. If something starts to ache a little, just breathe into it and allow the sound to massage it and let it go. And then when we get to the crystal bowls, because crystal is a very different mineral.
Mm-hmm.
Quartz crystal, the crystal bowls are made out of quartz. And Marcel Vogel was a scientist who spent his lifetime studying quartz. Most of his career was with IBM. He was probably
Okay.
the world's greatest expert on what makes quartz, how does quartz work with the human thought. And
Oh.
quartz is an amplifier. So what quartz does with human beings, because there's so many connections between quartz and humans, quartz will amplify your thoughts. It will amplify your emotions. It will amplify the field. It is also a transmitter. So whatever it is amplifying in you, that goes to everyone in the space. Now, so that means that working with quartz singing bowls, whatever it's amplifying, and the sound is carrying whatever is in me out into the space. So, hence, especially working with quartz, I go hollow and I just move. Sometimes I get instructions from Sir, because he is a very high vibration for a quartz singing bowl. So I just follow what feels would be of service to these people And once they've cleared, there's room for more soul. So connecting to the heart, connecting to the soul, and then the crystal can help them amplify what's my next step, a question they might have. When do I, should I start my book? Anything that will help them move their heart and soul forward is where sometimes I instruct people to say, this is your opportunity to use that amplification aspect of quartz and transmitting aspect of quartz to help you with that next step or to bring clarity. Quartz is also about clarity. And so, how can it help me? So, there's a different energy and a different way of working with the bowls. And quartz, in particular, takes a lot of mindfulness in the person who's playing them, so that it with this connection with the people there, like a musician and the audience, it's like you're one. We're one anyway,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like you're amplifying individual soul purposes that are serving everyone and the entire universe.
Mm-hmm.
So what a huge service, huge service when we get, well, all of it, the Tibetans for what they do, or at least what I am guided to have them work with me to do,
Yep.
and then the crystal bowls with their amplification factors. Everybody works with the bowls in their own unique way, and this, for me,
Absolutely.
this is how I love to be in service, and using the beautiful sounds of the quartz and to amplify. What's in that heart? What's in that heart? Let's bring more clarity. What's the next step? How can it help your book? How can it help this course? Let's move this forward. So to me, I love being able to help people with that part too.
Well, and I so appreciate it because I'm just like, what's she gonna bring up this month? When I join your singing bowl, I'm like, oh, it's singing bowl week, okay, right? Because like it just like whether it's full moon, new moon, whatever, it's like all I know is I'm here. It's gonna be perfect. Let's shift, right? And I just we're here for the journey. I appreciate it, but it's really the timing. Sometimes I'm like, breathe, you'll be okay, right? Because I know there's a shift, and I like, and I, I don't understand maybe what the shift is or how big the shift is going to be, but I know like when the calendar flips over and it's the first Thursday, and I'm like, really? To breathe through it, I got a couple days. When I figure it out on Monday, that Thursday is going to be the shift. So yeah, no, it's funny. Um, but at least I'm getting pre-warned for those. Like it's like it's the other ones that you just you're down by the river or something and you don't realize that you're in a hiccup and you're like, okay, and then next thing you know, you're flung up the slingshot and you're like, really? Really? Couldn't you be a little bit more gentle? And that's the beauty of the music, right? Because um I think the worst song ever is Baby Shark right now.
Oh my God.
And
We have little grandchildren, and
these
oh
poor
God, yeah.
children are inundated in everything of Baby Shark. Even though it's not Baby Shark,
Yeah.
everything has Baby Shark. And I'm like, we couldn't have put a better song, right? Because that actually makes me
Oh yeah.
squirrely. Like my
Mm-hmm.
brain just
Mm-hmm.
squirrels on it. And I'm like, sorry, I know it's your favorite song, but can't do it. Auntie can't do it. Sorry. Like, let's find a different song. Right?
Yeah,
But
we've been through that with our grandkids.
I know, but as a musician, as a person who understands music, are they there to make us crazy?
The
Like it's
baby shark?
yeah, it's so catchy, but it makes adults crazy, or maybe it's just yeah.
Well, on the surface level, from watching a whole pile of baby sharks over and over with our grandkids, they are teaching about family, and in context, it's an important learning for young children who are just starting, 2 year olds, 3 year olds. They're just starting to create their concepts about family. Oh yeah, I say this person I say grandmother to, this person I say grandfather to, this person I say mommy to and daddy to, and I say brother or sister here. Oh, okay, that's a group of people who are close to me, and in a way, it supports the nuclear family, which
Hmm.
is challenged in our modern times in big ways in many communities and countries. The nuclear family, in whatever way that nuclear family creates itself, it's a family that gives us emotional stability, or a group through which we learn, because not every family is a healing, healthy thing for every child. And so I think what they're trying to do is help create that concept of nuclear family, and they
But
do it in
in
the most awful way. But
Yeah, I was gonna say in the most like mean. It's like, oh, so yeah, like I like maybe I'm a mean auntie, but it's just like, honey, I can't do it with
yeah,
my
yeah, you got
grandkids
to do
because I'm
that.
like, I can't do the song. I'm sorry.
Let's
let's
pick
let's
Twinkle.
yeah, let's do Moana. Let's do Frozen. I cannot do Baby Shark. Sorry.
There's
But yeah,
lots of other choices.
and that's what's beautiful about it, right? And and I like, I mean, I'm not saying like the programming or whatever, right? Because I mean, Barney was the same way. It's like, oh my lord. But you know, anyway, I sorry, I digressed. But coming back to the music and the like, even like kids growing up nowadays, right? They still go, oh, you grew up in the best age, and I'm like, what? Well, the 70s and the 80s had the best music, and I go, it changed the world. Those decades changed the world on how we do so many things, like technology, music, spoken word. Like I said, it was just not about music. It was about, we were in a, a changing pivotal time of the world. How can we change it?
Mm.
And I said, you guys are kind of like coming up in the early 20s of going, well, we don't know where the new world's going, so we'll go back to where we knew was good. Like, how do you see music and yeah, changing our outlook, changing.
Oh, Adele, that is huge, absolutely huge. And yes, yes, yes. Music, it's played so many times. It's planting not only specific kinds of sounds, but also the energy of the words in all of those who listen. I grew up in the 60s. I was a teenager in the 60s, so hippie, hippie era here. So that was a whole shift from, I remember Elvis Presley going through the Beatles and walking down the street with a little transistor radio at my ear waiting for the next Beatles song. We couldn't, there's no way unless we had a record player. I had to save up my allowance to buy a record player and Beatles tunes, or whatever the favorite band was. And then how that has evolved is absolutely huge. And music is always a reflection of what's going on in souls and hearts.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of protests going on in the 60s. There was a lot
Absolutely.
of talk about love,
Mm-hmm.
be love, be in your heart. There were a lot of examples of that. Maharishi became popular in understanding the mind and its purpose and meditation. So a whole generation was touched by that.
Yeah.
And even at university, it was let it be in the hallways
Yeah.
of university, let it be, and Hey Jude. I
Mm-hmm.
remember, walking in time to Hey Jude from class to class, and Let It Be played forever in the hallways. And so it was more social consciousness coming out of the 50s, and very kind of fairly standardized roles of people. Then everything kind of blew open in the 60s. You know, there
Mm-hmm.
something's growing here, something's getting bigger, something is expanding. and then through the 70s and how the music evolved through there, and then the 80s again, how the music continued to reflect. And in the 80s, one of the questions I get a lot, Adele, is heavy metal music.
Hmm.
And heavy metal music and the energy of this music and the words. And I have a whole story about our son who, when he was is heavy metal music fan, plays a
Hmm.
lot of heavy metal music. So we
Hmm.
had a lot of conversations. Oh, tell me more about the words of this song. And fortunately for Matt, I didn't like the music that much, but he chose songs when I checked the words to them on the album covers in those days. I checked the words to them. They were spiritual words.
Yeah.
So somehow he was finding the heavy metal bands that had a spiritual message just with different music. They were speaking different frequencies to a whole generation of
Oh,
people who loved the energy of that music.
yeah, I was one of them. And
It,
I still remember one of Ozzy Osbourne's songs about he's talking about the atomic bomb. Why do we have
uh-huh,
nuclear
exactly.
bombs? Because we're never going to use it. It's the crazy train to nowhere,
Yep, totally,
right?
totally.
So
Huge
whoever
messages.
controls the button to the crazy train, you're not going to live anyways because there will be no life. So why do we have them anyways? And I mean, even when you think about the '60s, right, and the whole revolution and the flower children, whatever, and it was like they knew the drugs weren't the way, but they didn't know how else to hit the ecstasy of knowing God, a greater
Yes,
being
exactly.
of who we could
Yes.
be. And so
It took
I
a few
thought that was,
generations.
yeah, and I thought that was like amazing too, because and then you think about the '80s and the music and how it changed, and it's like, well, we brought out Walkmans and Discmans, and we could have personal players that you didn't have to share it. And like the kids nowadays have no idea that we used to sit by the radio with our tape deck to go record, stop, right? They just go Spotify, and they're missing like so many pivotal things of and then I even like a lot of music buffs are saying vinyl has to come back because true music lovers can hear all the scratch, the kick of the digital, right? They
Hmm.
cannot stand a CD. It's like scratching a chalkboard. They have to bring back vinyl. And I'm like, loves their music in their own way, right? And
Absolutely. And yeah, and we're so connected with music. It's our first language and we'll never forget it. It's even as a baby will often listen to music in the environment. Well, even the ears are the first sense to fully develop in the fetus. So at 4 months in utero, a baby can fully hear. And they hear through the water, through the amniotic fluid, through the skin, and sound goes through the body. So they hear the heartbeat of the mother, they hear the voice of the family, they hear the music in the environment, the traffic, the restaurant, they hear everything. And so that sense and sound helps us to grow the nervous system. Like I said, it's food for your nervous system. And like food, it's junk food, good food, and superfood. And we
mhm.
know by how it feels what is junk food for us, because junk food for one person is good food for another person, or superfood for another person.
Yeah.
And there we're all wired for sound, but we're all wired uniquely.
Well, and
And
I mean that just brings in the whole like we're walking on the earth, but then you think of the birds and the
yeah.
sea life, and you're just like, but they're just as intelligent in their own way, right? And
Oh,
and
that I the blog I wrote is "Seeing with the Eyes of the Soul" that went up on the Sound Wellness blog on Saturday, and during the week I thought, okay, I need to write a blog, and what would touch people's heart, and I thought, okay, I'll just sit here and enjoy my outside office. I put fresh water in the bird bath. And then I just kind of listened to the sounds and looked around me. And it was a morning full of activity. First showed up was the flicker. So I thought,
Hmm.
okay, I'm looking at flicker. That's my birth animal in summer.
Okay.
And so that's one of my totems for my birth chart and in Sun Bear's astrology. So I'll look up flicker. Welcome. There's a flicker pair that often shows up at the bird bath. And as soon as the flicker goes, then Robin shows up and he hops around in the garden looking for worms and then up to the bird bath. So, what's your message from Robin? And then there were, oh, it was full. The whole then seagulls flew over and then they started flying
Oh,
around and I could
hilarious.
hear their squeals, the way seagulls love to float around on all the air currents. It was perfect, right above our house, of course. And I'm writing
Hmm.
about all this as it's happening. And then
That's
a couple of
beautiful.
magpies were flying through the backyard and they came around the corner of the house and they almost bumped into me. It was like, whoo, flap, 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 flap. And they landed on the fence and stared. We had a staring contest for a little while and then he flew away. So kind of a stream of consciousness story of listening and just being present with the activity around us. We ignore so much of it, and wow, nature is busy.
Well, and it's funny because I used to have the crazy job of mowing the grass along Deerfoot. And my coworkers, they'd be like listening to different music, whatever. I'm like, why? It's so beautiful. And then it'd be like, oh, your friend is here. And it'd either be a hawk or a bald eagle, right?
Oh,
And
how
the
awesome!
bald, yeah, but the bald eagle is my totem. And I'd be like, oh, wisdom keepers, what do you have to share with me? And I always get beautiful messages, and they kind of made fun of me, and I'm like, yeah, but that's okay. Listen to your stuff, right? Because and
Yeah.
that's the thing, right? It's like it's not taking just one bowl or just one drum or just one, right? It's how do we bring it all together in this ensemble
Mm.
to be the most authentic sound that is needed in the moment of who's in front,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right?
Thank
Like
you for that. That's
taking
beautiful.
taking the mechanics out of it and just flowing. Because even a hum, like you can do a hum and you'll be humming along, and all of a sudden that frog comes, but it's not wrong. The frog wanted to
Mm-hmm.
be heard too, and then you go back to the hum, right? And then some scratches come, right? But it's all part of the music. It's all part of the soul song, for lack of a better word or saying, and it's moving you forward and never whatever vibration, right? And maybe that frog or that scratch is something actually shifting through
I
yourself
agree.
because
Yeah.
it's like, well, finally he's paying attention. Thank you. We've been croaking for a while, right?
Yeah. Totally, Adele. Love that.
Yeah. So, yeah. Anyways, it's all good. Oh, would I'm feeling like this is like so expensive, but yet so like any points that we could pull things together.
Well, I think one of the most important is to become aware of the sound around you and then maybe ask the question, knowing that sound is food for your nervous system responds with a flood of neurochemicals to every sound around you, sometimes just a tiny bit, sometimes a flood, depending on the sound. So the question then becomes, okay, for me, is this junk sound? How am I feeling with this sound? Is this good sound? Am I feeling relaxed? Is my breathing calm? Is this super sound where it's stimulating? Am I feeling, yes, this is awesome? Or is this super sound helping me to clear stuff that has been bugging me? It's another version of super sound. So I think that knowing how sound affects you, it can't not affect you. We're built that way. Is to become aware of it and ask questions. Okay, is this good for me to have in my environment? Like Baby Shark, you made a boundary there saying, nope, not good in my environment. We're going to listen to something
Well,
else.
and it's really funny because that brings up the a conversation I had with some people. Oh, I love the morning birds. But if we could just get rid of the motorcycles, I said it's the way you're looking at it.
Yep.
I said I have motorcycles all over my around my house, and I don't like it. Doesn't even phase me, right?
We have a beautiful little pond at the backyard where I was writing my blog, and it has a little waterfall, and Ed put a little fountain in it, and the bird bath, and some flowers and plants around it. And the bus stop is right beside me on the other side of the fence. And we have three major bus routes that go through, and so I'm writing and enjoying the sounds of the water, and then a bus stops, makes its noise, and then goes on. I let the sound go through me and go back to the water. And so, it's not pleasant for moments, and then, okay, no problem. It can go through me, and I'm just going to go back to the water because
Mm-hmm.
that's nourishing me.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah,
Well,
yeah, where you're
but it's
focusing on.
like you can get all bent out of shape and worry about the bus, and then another one comes in 15 minutes or 20 minutes. So, are you going to be bent out of shape every time you try to use your backyard? No, you just let it flow, right? Like, yeah, some can startle, but birds can startle you, right? Like you get some of
Mhm.
those crows fighting, and it's like, holy guys, what's going on? Like, I was having a peaceful day until you started squawking at each other, right? You know?
It's like the sparrows in the hedge. They love the bird bath,
Uh-huh.
and if I haven't been out there at the time they want to use it to clean it, then they chirp 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 with active angry or chirps or more, and they're not quite angry. They're just more
Oh, cool.
intense chirps.
Yeah.
And so to get me to notice, it's like, hey, 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 check the bird bath, will you? It's dirty. Or if I'm
You are
inside having
moving. Let's get
breakfast,
going.
they order me around those sparrows. Or they'll sit on the fence and chirp at me if I'm having breakfast because the fence is right outside the kitchen window. So I'll be
Mm-hmm.
sitting there. A couple of sparrows will land and or sparrows and chirp, stare at me right through the window and chirp as if to say, "Really, the
Yeah,
bird bath is
but then it's
dirty."
our interpretation too, right? Because
Yeah, totally,
we only can be led if we're wanting to be led. Right?
totally, totally.
Yeah.
But they let me know. And it was interesting. We had a group of people out there the other day during a workshop, and for lunch I hadn't been out in the morning because we were teaching to change the water, and they were chirp 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 in the bushes. And so I thought, okay, okay, I had a bucket, I've got a bucket of water, and it was nice and clean. So I just filled it up. There wasn't much water in it, and the chirping stopped. And then everybody at the table thought, they really do let you know when they want water in the bird bath, don't they?
Yeah. But I mean that's the beauty like of either music or animals or it's listening to the silence of what is actually being spoken,
Yeah. Beautiful.
right? Well, because you
Hmm.
think like even a dog or a cat, like they don't bark or meow unless something is going on, right? They're very quiet. We're the noisy ones,
Yeah.
right?
Especially
So
up here, right?
yeah, and so if they're coming to share something with you or whatever, then you got to stop and take a moment. And even with the ocean life, I mean, like they say the dolphins are far more superior than we'll ever imagine,
Hmm. Hmm.
right?
Oh, I
They
have a
can
story
hear
about dolphins.
further and do things. Yeah, okay, share your dolphin story.
Oh, Adele, oh, Adele. My husband and I went to Las Vegas one summer for our anniversary, and across the street from our hotel was the Mirage Hotel, and they had an animal show, and they had some dolphins in a pool behind the hotel. And yeah, I know. Someone had said, you got to go and see the baby dolphin. They had a baby dolphin there. And so we made a beeline over there after breakfast, and they had two main pools. They had a smaller pool where at this point when we got there, there was a mother of the baby and an aunt, two females and the baby in the one smaller pool, and then the male in the larger pool where they would do shows and do different things for people there. And then so we kind of saw did the outside view and then went underneath, and they had a window where you could look into the large pool, and the male dolphin was swimming around and would swim towards the window and go up to the gate where they had closed the gate where he couldn't be with the two females and the baby at least for an hour or so, and then he'd swim around and come back towards the window. And I thought, well, he's sure missing them. He wants to be with them. And so when he came around facing me, I was at the other side of the window. I sent love from my heart to the dolphin and just
Mm.
saying, I see you. And I'd love to send love to you. So imagined a beam of love from the heart to the dolphin as he swam towards me. Then he went up to the gate and then came back around. And as I watched him come towards me, that second round after receiving the love from my heart, he sent it back to me, and my heart just went,
Oh,
whoa. I have never felt a heart expansion like that. Oh my gosh, Adele. And I've
how
got shivers everywhere.
amazing.
It was like I received the beam of love from him as he swam around again as an acknowledgement. Thank you. Intelligent? Oh yeah.
Well, and
It was amazing.
but I mean, it's just it goes back to the whole baby shark of this is dad, this is mom, this, right? Why are they being separated?
Yeah, good question. They brought them all together by the time we came back up and
But you
we
know,
watched
it's
them
like
play.
yeah, and then you, both of us know of Hannah Laura, and you just like after meeting her, you just like, oh my god, there should never be another animal in an enclosed pool again.
Uh-huh.
You
Especially an
know.
animal like that. What an incredible experience from a beautiful being.
Mm. Oh yeah, like, and I remember in Mexico, like we were going out to this one island for dinner, and they said, "Well, sorry, folks, we're having some visitors," right? And going out, there's probably about 150 dolphins swimming with us, right? And then they had to kill the engines because there was a
Uh,
mom birthing whale, and normally like it was a bit early, and they said, "Oh, okay," but they must kill the engine while Dork is in view, and then she swam off, and so we were able to go. But yeah, and it was funny because when we were getting off the boat after the dinner and all that, the one guy helping said, "Wow, you guys were the lucky ones." And we're like, "Why?" Because the second dinner didn't go because of the whale. They couldn't take the boat back out. But just seeing the dolphins on both sides was just amazing. You know, they're so intelligent and have their own
uh-huh.
sound. We bring it right back, right? Because they speak their own language, which is amazing too. I feel like Big Sur needs to talk.
Oh,
He's been
let
gnawing
me
at
bring
me
him
for
over.
about 5 minutes. I'm like, yes, yes, yes.
This is Sir. He's actually fairly small. He has a seven-inch bowl around the across the top, and it's blue colored because the quartz. Started as a clear quartz bowl and then was coated with little chunks of diamond. If I bring it up, you can see all these little
Yeah,
chunks
yeah,
in the camera. Those are
yeah.
diamond. And on the bottom of the bowl, I don't know if it's possible to see, there's just tiny, yeah, there, a little
Yeah,
pink
a little bit.
couple of dots
Yeah.
of rose quartz. What I've learned about diamond is all about brilliance, its soul, its clarity, its strength, its
Oh, no
truth,
wonder
its
he's
integrity.
screaming.
And diamond can cut through anything. Diamond can be very truthful and blunt, which can be Sir's voice. This bowl is all about soul purpose. Is all about the highest vibration in the field. If I'm doing a one-on-one session, or actually even sometimes with sound baths and group sessions, then Sir helps to restructure the energy field. He works a lot in the field connect and source connection. And you've heard him all the time in the sound baths. He's in everyone.
And
He's
in our
singing away here.
conversations, right? He talks.
So what's he saying? He chatting away with you,
Well,
Adele?
no, he was just saying, "Do I get to sing? Do I get to sing?" I'm like, "In a second." Hello, hello, and I'm like, "In a second." So, and now I'm like, "Okay, are you saying welcome? You're welcome."
So
So,
he was chatting away. Oh, yeah. He's and most amazing stories with this bowl too, and such an honor to be a keeper of this being. To me, very very much alive, and very much heartfelt. Even though very truthful, Sir is the divine masculine kind of energy. This is all about your soul purpose. What are you stalling for? Let's do this kind of energy.
and it's not
You
even
know,
our
what's up
Thursday
with that?
morning.
Yeah, is what? It's like, let's do this. Come on, what are you stalling? And his notes are very interesting because his musical notes, the the low sound in Sir is a D sharp, which when you play with the stick along the top is you hear the D sharp. Now in Jonathan Goldman's system of putting notes to chakras, C is the root chakra, D is the second chakra, D sharp is the lower dantian, the source of our life force energy.
Okay.
And so he's very much that center of balance and life force energy. His higher note is an A. And in musical terms, D sharp to A in the Middle Ages was called the devil's interval. In jazz, it's called the augmented fourth. And it's all the esoteric history of this sound is all about awakening. It was banned by the church in the Middle Ages. It's kind of a dissonant interval. Well, in those days, it was very dissonant, but
Mm-hmm.
people weren't ready for it. And
Mm-hmm.
so he's all about awakening this bowl. Now, we don't often hear the A, the higher sound, so I'll tap it so you can hear both the D sharp and the A. So you hear, well, he's really singing the A to, it's different every time I play this bowl. So that's a bit of both of them. No, okay, he's ordering me one more I have to do. Okay, I can play him now. So this is the D sharp. No, he said I'm not done. Sorry.
So I just want a clarification. Was he kind of humming before you tapped him?
Yeah, he was resonating to the sounds of our voice.
Because I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm hearing him. I was hearing him in my earbud. And I thought, well, I
Yeah.
couldn't be like this. Like she hasn't done anything. But then, yeah, okay. So I was hearing him.
Yeah, certain frequencies in our voice, if they match the one of Sir's frequencies, then he'll sing to that.
Very cool.
You can hear him singing away in the background. And a lot of the A. Hello. Oh, there the D sharp is there too. He's sitting right here.
That's funny. So just take Sir, magnify it by lots more bowls and chimes and tuning forks, and then you get a sound bath.
And everyone has been so different, Adele. So fascinating when I
Mm-hmm.
tune into to a theme or
Mm-hmm.
choose one of the cards that is a theme, and then ask. I wander around, and say, "Okay, who has to be here today,
Yeah.
and they all chime in, and it's fascinating. And the gong has shown up for a couple of them. I don't often use the gong, but it's another energy that is really really beautiful in the field, and because it has so many frequencies in it, it's
Well,
a
it feels
beautiful instrument.
grounding, the
Mm,
gong.
yes. Yeah.
It's like everything's playing and then gong and you go, okay, grounded. Okay, play, boom, grounded. That's just me. Um, but I think your May sound bath has been the deepest for me for a while. Out of the
Mm.
ones that we do at the beginning of the month, like I was like, yeah, that one rocked me. I don't know how, I don't know why, but I just remember it going, holy Dinah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I was nervous about June, but June kind of like it was like it was great, but it didn't rock me like May. But maybe I've worked
I
through some
think
of the May stuff to as calmer for June.
Yeah, well, May was a big month for shifting. To I
Yeah.
felt a lot of stuff going on in May, and the gong came for that one quite strongly.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Hmm.
So as we wrap up this wonderful conversation and learning and people getting to know who Sharon is, um, any last thoughts? Any last, not last, but any inspirations or downloads or whatever you want to share?
Mm. Oh gosh, thank you. Well, I think still become aware of the sound around you
Yeah.
is an important one.
And motorcycles
And
and
I,
vehicles.
the, yeah, and respect the journey and listen to where it takes you, and explore where it takes you. Sir
And that's
says, "Yep, that's it."
well, yeah, but I mean, it's also in our own hearing of
Hmm.
what is our body, what is our head, what is our voice trying to speak and share,
Totally. Hmm.
you know. And I mean that statement's perfect for me because I've been fighting myself with blog posts and finding the words. Ugh, that's my own stuff. It's here to talk. Yeah,
Yep.
just gotta let it flow. Let it flow. So once again, it's Authentic Conversations presented by Transition Clarity. Our guest today was Sharon Carne. I'm your host, Adele Bernard. Thanks for joining.